out of that hurt, out of those wounds, I'm going to use you. He says, everything that you went through was for my glory. Every heartache, every disappointment, every rejection, every time you were disobedient, I allowed it. Don't you know that I am the sovereign God? I can stop whatever I want to stop. And I can start whatever I want to start. It was that wicked king, Nebuchadnezzar, who says, who can stay the hand of God? Who can stop him? Who can tell him what to do? He's God all by himself. He does not wait for a Congress to come together and give him permission. He doesn't have a committee that he has to go to. The angelic hosts wait upon him. And we're sitting here waiting for the Congress and the Senate to release another stimulus check. Jehovah Jireh will provide. We don't have to wait for the government, for the Bible declares that the government shall be upon his shoulders. He reigns forever and ever 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 and ever. He's God by himself. The Bible declares the fool has said in his heart there is no God. Whether you acknowledge him of God or not, he's still God. That's why it's foolish. Anytime you see that less, that I-S-H, foolish, it means man. Fool man. That's a fool man that thinks there is no God. That's a fool man. Don't fall into that trap. Whether you believe it or not, because you haven't seen him move, or not because you're still praying and you ain't seen him, don't you doubt God. He's still sovereign. I got to get to my text. I said I wasn't going to be here long. I got to get to my text. I wrestled with God when God gave me this message, because God said, I need you to release a word. And I wrestled with God. I promise you, I wrestled because I didn't want to release this word. God, they ain't going to want to hear this. God, I don't want to say that. They ain't going to want to hear this. He says, say what I tell you to say. God spoke to my heart, and God said, there's a word I want you to release, and that word is tophat. Tophat is the Hebrew word which means the drums. I'll explain it to you later. But God told me, no more drums. Now, we're not talking about these sanctified drums that are here in the sanctuary and in holy places that are sanctified. Those are not the drums in which he's talking about. Don't get it confused, but you'll understand it better by and by. I'll explain it to you. God called Jeremiah and he told Jeremiah, he says, come here. I'm going to send you to a place. And the place was called Hinnom. Now, let me explain this Hinnom to you. This Hinnom was a consecrated place. Hinnom was on the east side of the city. See, there was a consecrated place on the east side of the city. Y'all will catch it in a few minutes. There was a consecrated place on the east side of the city. And on the east side of the city, in this consecrated place, they made consecrated things. You get it? And the consecrated things were to be used in a holy place. It was here at Hinnom that they made the vessels that were to be used in the temple of God. A consecrated place, making consecrated things for a holy place. This was on the east side. And God sent Jeremiah down to this consecrated place. I asked God, God, why would you send him to this consecrated place? He says, because there's a shift that's coming. There's a shift that has happened. And I need to warn the people about the shift. Now watch this. In Hinnom, they made consecrated vessels to be used in the holy temple. But the people got careless, because after they used the consecrated thing in the holy place, rather than take it and sanctify it and put it off somewhere, they took the holy thing, took it back down to the consecrated place, and they broke it. They broke it as if the holy thing had no more value. They were careless because they said, I'm through with this thing. I know with some of y'all that some family members just threw you away. They just said, I don't need this anymore. You're too much of a headache. But they didn't know you were still in the hands of God. God was still working on you. When people throw you away, God says, I still want you. I'm still going to use you. I still have use for you. The people became careless, and they took the consecrated thing and broke it in a consecrated place. I told you, he told Jeremiah there's about to come a shift. The valley of Hinnom went through a name change. The valley of Hinnom became the valley of the broken vessels. What was once consecrated and holy now has become a broken place, shattered with broken things that God had consecrated, but man had broken. How many of you feel broken? How many of you has your community, has your friends, has your family given up on? How many of you feel like I've been cast away? Nobody really wants me. Nobody really needs me. You feel like society, the world, everybody has rejected you. But God says, I still want you. I still want you. This consecrated place was about to go through another shift because the people became even more careless. After the generations of generations begin to get further and further away from the holy thing of God, they turned to idol gods. And they brought idol gods to this consecrated place and began to make sacrifices to the idol gods in a holy place. See, there's a shift. And the shift, watch this, it went from Hinnom to the valley of the broken vessels. Now here is the third shift. The name changed to the valley of Tophat. And God told me to release this word, no more Tophat. Tophat means the drums. And what happened in this valley that was consecrated, and they took it and defiled it because they gave sacrifices to idol gods. But look at what the sacrifices were. They cast their babies in the fire of the idol gods. They were casting their babies in fire. That's why God called it Tophat. Because in Tophat, what they did when they were casting their babies on the fire, they would play the drums. And the reason they would play the drums